Did Para just leave?
I came back.
Okay, hang on. I gotta share my screen.
I came back.
Parents.
That's awesome.
Hey,
that's
Anytime David gets involved, we call it paranormal activity.
Michael, I wear this hat half of the time just for you.
Oh, thank you.
Is that how you receive your revelation?
There's something to do with it, but I don't like to confess. But yeah, maybe.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
So actually, just following up on some of the things David said. This is from yesterday's presentation. I just wanted to put this out here at the beginning again. And it talks, if you apply it to channel strategy, each of God's children deserves the opportunity to hear and accept the healing, redeeming message of Jesus Christ. And that's going to be different for whoever comes to the website. Is it a member? Is it a non-member? And hopefully we can do a better job to really customize that experience. And of course, that goes for people walking into a church building. How do we make our meetings really, really welcoming? Because that's not what people sometimes report when we do surveys. No other message is more vital to our happiness now or forever. No other message is more filled with hope. No other message can eliminate contention in our society. So on this badgeless presentation, I hope it doesn't mean that you take your badges off, but it's interesting in Doctrine and Covenants 38:27, as we look at this incredible work that's moving forward, yet Christ says, if you're not one, you're not mine. And so I just wanted to throw the question out to this group here. Have you ever had contention with other members of the church? Have you ever felt frustration? Have you always felt perfectly at one with everybody who sits in the pews with you? So let me just throw that out if anybody wants to comment.
I think that's an unrealistic expectation and or reality of the human existence.
Very, very, very true. So I hope to get to this during the few minutes that I have with you today, because I truly feel like, Sister Nelson just spoke at UVU at the graduating class, and she addressed this issue of contention, and having different ideas in today's world sometimes can lead to contention instead of a constructive dialogue. So you've heard from most of these people here in the last few days. Some of them you have not, because they're not here, like Kate, she's in Cancun. Kim Woodbury's leaving. Somehow everybody's going to Cancun these days. But we have our area relations team here at headquarters, and then this slide's not quite up to date. There's a few changes, but that didn't. But we have as a slogan, and this came from multiple years ago when I had a long discussion with our Raz band, and we decided, how do we truly become one? At the time, he was the senior member of the presidency of the 70. And as you know, everything we do around the globe through our communication councils is really to support local priesthood leaders, to support our local area communication department or area departments, to try to bring about kind of the vision, the area plan. And the area plan always has, of course, a prophetic vision component, which comes from the First Presidency and the 12, and then some area-specific goals. So Clark may have shared this. I just want to review it again. But as a division, area relations, Our purpose is to enable and connect people and help them solve problems. And let me just give some examples here. But as you go out into your areas, at headquarters, we have very clearly defined departments. We have priesthood and family. We have the missionary department. We have communication department. We have family search. We have welfare and self-reliance. And when you are set up like this functionally, it is very easy at times to really get into a silo mentality where all you are focused on is, what am I doing in my department? What do I need to do? And so in area relations, we kind of play the role of how do we enable and connect people so that we together can become one and really focus on, in terms of communications, on the area plan. We focus on integration and alignment, horizontal and vertical, meaning we work with all the divisions in church communication, but we also work with many of the other departments to try to integrate horizontally. Because when you're in the areas, you will be facing things with family history, with missionary work, with welfare and self-reliance. If we communicate as a church, we're really communicating on all those topics, just like David mentioned in the previous section. We have some things that are communication specific, like the newsroom and things like that, but even there, the stories are often about stories. What is welfare self-reliance doing? What is family search doing? How can we as a church bless the communities that our members call home? But just as important, how do we as members listen to the communities? What are the truths we can learn in Africa? The way Africans do things, Brigham Young said, we will go all over the globe to find truths. What can we learn from these different cultures? We seek to create more capacity at the area level through strategic rebalancing of resources. Every year we try to get more budget to the area so more things can be done at the local level versus 95% of kind of budget dollars spent right now spent at headquarters. We'd like to see that change over the next 10 years to really put more budget in the areas to produce a more Asian product, a more German product, a more African product. And then really our success is the success of others. And I think that's a key thing especially for our senior couples. You are successful if the people you are serving with are successful. If you leave and leaders and people there have been strengthened because you have been there, then you can say, this was successful. So this is just kind of a little schematic, but that's horizontal, is across the divisions and across headquarters. And then vertical, we have the headquarters, we work with the areas, of course, and then a lot of the nations will have national communication councils. For example, Revers, if they go to Thailand, we have a council in Thailand, a national council. In those countries where we're stronger, we go down to the coordinating council level. And the reason why we go to the coordinating council level and have councils there is because those councils are overseen by Area 70s, who usually have a coordinating council. In Utah, they may have up to 3. And also because usually that aligns with a mission boundary. So we can also work more closely with mission presidents and their mission. And then we go down to the stake level. So this is kind of the view from the area perspective often. We as a church, David just spoke about content. When I used to be the area director in Russia, I felt like I had a quiver full of arrows our biggest problem was that we were like archers in the fog, and we just shot arrows left and right, and we really didn't have one single target. But from an area perspective, if you're sitting in, if you're sitting in Cape Town, and I know in this case it's MLS, but think of everything the church produces and sends out. I just recently learned there's a word called scrupulosity, which is religious OCD. And we have many members that struggle because we as a church put out so much that some members feel like if they don't read everything the church puts out, then they are not a very valiant member. But let me tell you, there is no way you can read everything the church puts out. So we have to, I think Clark discussed this more. And by the way, recently there was a survey done, 2 area presidencies across the globe, feels that communication-related messaging and campaigns coming from church headquarters, too much was 61%, a bit too much was 8%. I think they were just being nice. And then about right, I don't know, not enough. I don't quite understand this one. I think there was a misunderstanding of the question. But once again, you will not be like out there going, I have a lack of things to communicate. The question will be, do I have the right message at the right time for the right audience? That's where we need to improve. So I wanted to show this, and I think Clark spoke about this. But at the area, if you look on the left-hand side here just, and believe me, it does not have everyone here, but here are just some of the major departments that send messaging out to the areas. And so a few years ago, the church institutionalized something called the Area Communication Committee. And I'll have a slide on that. But the goal of that committee is, how do we take everything that's coming from headquarters? How do we look at our area plan? And how do we create a communication plan that helps assure that the right message to the right person, meaning audience-based, and where they are and at the right time, channel-based? So in Latin America, a lot of people get messages through WhatsApp. In some parts of the world, there's hardly any internet connection, so putting up a beautiful website may not be the right tool. But how do we look at our audience? How do we look at these specific people and the best way to reach them? And the Area Communication Committee is the area presidency member over communication. In many cases, the full area presidency attends. It's the area communication director, director of temporal affairs, and publishing services manager. And other department representatives are invited as needed. For example, in North America Southeast area, it seems like every week there's a new hurricane or earthquake or tornado that blows through there. We would definitely have the Welfare Self-Reliance person on there as well, because we work so closely with them on all the efforts there. We work in the areas, you'll find there's a publishing services team, and there's no representation by correlation and research, but we in church communication, we work very, very closely with these 2 other departments and really try to be one with them to avoid duplication and to be as effective as possible. But as you go out into the areas, and I hope you're feeling a little bit like on that roller coaster going up the mountain these days after all these presentations you've seen. But I can't overemphasize the importance of really, really keeping an open mind. And wherever you are serving, by badgeless, we really mean, yes, you are communication called by the communication department, but you will make friends with senior couples and staff members from all other departments as well who are out there. And in the areas, It's far easier to kind of become badgeless, meaning, okay, I'm part of the communication department, but really I'm one with my friends from the Welfare Self-Reliance Department or from Family History, Family Search, even the area church historian. How do we truly work together, come together, and learn together? How do we fail together? I think sometimes in church, because in our culture, we hate to point out that we ever do things wrong. But I find that failures can be just the most wonderful learning tool. As we've started broadcasting conference across the globe, we've had some wonderful whoppers, just total failures. You know, Haiti, the conference comes on and it's in Spanish. That's the wrong soundtrack. Now, in that case, it was a mistake made by the station, but it was just a great failure so that we could get it fixed and could put that in the instructions for the 92 other countries that we don't repeat that mistake again. And then across the areas, across the globe, we have distributed intelligence. You know, we may do something. I'll give you the perfect example. Years ago, when the Book of Mormon musical came out, headquarters, we were adamant that we will not do anything to promote that play. So we issued a statement, you know, this play will entertain you for a night. The Book of Mormon will change your life forever. So just kind of a pithy statement that actually won awards. But then you had a stake president in Cincinnati, President Schreckengost, and his mission president that said, you know what, we disagree. We think this is a great opportunity. And so because he had the keys, they decided to embrace the play. And they invited media to follow missionaries for a day and say, are you really interested in what these guys do all day? And so they did that, and they built in community service. They put on an exhibit of sacred scripture at the library together with other interfaith leaders. And they just turned this thing into a huge wave of people were going to the play and going, okay, you know, now I'm reading about what they're doing in the media. And it just led to 52 baptisms in a very short time of people who had found this through this kind of different approach. And we took that, put it up on our GNC website that Kim Woodbury talked about, and people across the globe were able to take that approach. We did it in Brisbane and Melbourne. Everybody put their local kind of touch on it, but we went from being very close-minded to how can we take this thing and use it as an opportunity. But once again, we worked very, very closely with other departments, with missionary, with church history, in trying to not look at it as like, I'm just communication, but how do we come together? How do we not have our department badge on and just really come together behind what this stake president was trying to accomplish? Anyway, let me just unshare my screen. But that's kind of, you know, the adventure you will set off into, is get to know people, get to know the members, find out what your welfare self-reliance couples are doing. Sometimes they are, you know, sometimes they're worried, oh no, you know, we're kind of we want to do good, but we don't want to let anybody know about it because we want to, don't let, you know, they use Matthew 4, we use Matthew 5, let your light shine. But get to know these people. You know, there are no coincidences. And we have seen some of the most wonderful things happen when we thought outside of our lanes and came together and looked at something and go, okay, here's the area plan, and here's what we could do if we take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and connect dots, and really look at it from a bachelor's perspective. Does that make sense? Any questions on this or any? Any questions that you have from anything you've seen so far in this training?
It appears that they've all been perfectly enlightened, Michael.
That's great. I love it. So, by the way, I was thinking about when David was talking about Alexa, and then I would see the du toits. I went to a French school, so I look at your name and it says of the roof, du toit. So how does Alexa say your name correctly?
I think Alexa does say du toit.
Well, it should be. It's a French name. So,
Yes.
so anyway, well,
It's just that in South Africa, you'd probably be considered a bit pretentious for using du toit instead of du toit. So they just got absorbed by the Dutch culture. And so du toit is how it's pronounced in South Africa.
well, it's
So-
just like my name is von Rosen. But
Yeah.
if I say that here, everybody thinks I'm pretentious. Who does he think he is?
Exactly.
They turn me into Dutch, first of all, Van Rosen, before I can say anything.
Or brother du toit could be from my old town, Detroit.
Well,
Sure.
great. Well, that's all I had. So if you don't have any questions, I think this is the last presentation of the day, isn't it? Murdoch?
Yes, it is.
We want to give them freedom.
Thank you so much. 10 minutes. We'll get started.